My name is Jennifer McFarland. My husband Doug and I have been married almost 20 years. Doug and I met on a blind date. I did not really want to go on the date, but my roommate had encouraged me to go, and we met.
6 weeks later, I'm asking her dad if I can marry her. 6 months later, we're married.
And right around our first anniversary is when we found out that Scott was on the way. He was supposed to be born in March.
Before Scott's here, I'm traveling to Jacksonville quite a bit for training with my job. Middle of February, I get the okay to travel, that everything's gonna be fine.
My doctor had promised that my baby would not come anytime soon and he was safe to go out of town. Unfortunately, he was wrong.
One morning early, Jennifer calls me, and wasn't strange that she called me, it was that she called me so early and talked about just not feeling well. And then around lunchtime, her mom calls me and says, "You need to get home now." There was something going on that the doctors were basically doing a C-section that day. So I pack up my stuff, tell the people I'm working with I've got to go, drive straight from Jacksonville to Capital Regional, walk in, and it seemed like all the nurses knew a description of me because they said, "We've been waiting on you." When I got there, they kind of give me the gown to put on to go into the OR. Details of it seemed to be a blur because it happened so fast, but one thing I remember is the doctor, as they were talking to each other, said they're glad they made the decision to deliver Scott that day because in their whole years of practice, this was one that they count on their hand as how bad it was.
I remember when they told me that he would definitely have to go to the NICU and he was going to be transferred to the other hospital. And they brought Scott in, and he was in a little incubator, and he was hooked up on tubes, and I could just touch him. I didn't get to hold him, and I did feel like just everyone but me had been able to hold him. As a first-time mom, I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing at all. I just knew that I did not have my baby with me because his lungs were not developed, and he was being taken care of by someone that was not me. Luckily, he was only in the hospital for about a week in NICU, and we were able to bring him home, and he's thriving, he's perfectly fine. Because we had complications with Scott, and because he was an emergency C-section, we knew that the chances of having further complications with other pregnancies was a possibility. We knew that the doctors would monitor me, they would always keep an eye on me. There was no doubt in our mind we wanted to have more than one child. Emma was born just a little over 2 years after Scott. Perfectly normal, healthy pregnancy. Everything went completely smooth, no problems at all.
So we had 2 kids. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good. And then Jennifer surprised me with Jack's coming.
Scott was 3.5 when Jack was born. Emma was 17 months old. There were minor complications again with Jack. And after Jack was born, I was still in the hospital, and my doctor came in and he said, you've had one really scary pregnancy, and you've had another pregnancy with complications, and baby had to be born a little bit early. I really encourage you to not have any more children. You need to be done. You have 3 healthy children. They need you. And at the time, with a 3-year-old, a 17-month-old, and a newborn, I was a little relieved. Relieved that I wouldn't have to have another C-section, relieved that I would not have to be pregnant again. But when Jack was about a year old, I started getting a little more sleep. Felt like I had a handle on the 3 children, and I just started to feel like there was really something that was missing in our family, that our family was not quite complete. I loved our family. I loved having the 3 little children all close together. I just felt like there was this piece of me that just was not here yet. Doug and I talked about it. He felt like our family was very complete. We did not need any more children. I talked to my doctor about it. He also encouraged us, it is very risky. You do need to be done. And those conversations continued really for about 2 more years. And in January of 2012, Doug and I talked one more time, and I was going to the doctor for just a normal appointment, and I'd planned to discuss this with my doctor again. Doug and I agreed that after discussing it with the doctor, if he still did not feel that it was safe enough to have another child, that I would accept that. But the doctor, after a very long conversation, he did agree that enough time had passed that it would be possible to have another child and hopefully have a safer and easier pregnancy. In April of 2012, we found out that yes, we were pregnant again. Mary Grace was on the way. It was very exciting. Of the children, Scott was the most excited about it. Jack and Emma, they didn't care too much. It was a fairly easy pregnancy for about the first half of the pregnancy. When I was about 23 weeks pregnant, I was sent to a specialist, not because they thought anything was wrong, just as a precaution because of what had happened with Scott. And then again, with Jack, it was a precaution. I remember going to that appointment and just feeling very excited because at the time we weren't 100% sure that we were having a girl. Our doctor was like, maybe 70, 80%, I think it's a girl. So I was very excited to find out, see the ultrasound, and just see, you know, my baby, the baby that I had been praying for 2 years. And the specialist found what he called life-threatening complications and encouraged us right away that we needed to terminate. And he just kept telling me everything that could go wrong for me, you know, what would happen to me if I can continue to, you know, carry this to term. And I remember asking him, but what about her? You know, how is she? How's the baby? And he said, I'm not concerned with the baby right now. I'm concerned with keeping you alive. The doctor was afraid that, you know, I would not survive the pregnancy. And I remember one point that he brought up was, you already have 3 children at home, 3 little children. They need you. Are you willing to risk them for this one? And it wasn't a hard decision to make. I did not feel like I was putting Mary Grace above Scott, Emma, and Jack. I just felt like this was a baby that we had prayed for, I had prayed for, and that God had given us. God had entrusted this child with us. I didn't feel that God would then take her away or take me away from the children that needed me.
And during this whole thing, I guess the scariest thing for me, it wasn't the risk to Mary Grace, it was the risk to Jennifer, because what she does for our family would have been the biggest loss. We go from the room where they did the ultrasound to sitting in the doctor's office. He's telling us there's not much data on this because the majority of people decide to terminate.
I think I was 23, 24 weeks pregnant, so I was right where if we were going to terminate, it had to be done almost immediately. Doug and I, without even discussing it, without even looking at each other, we both said no. There is no way that we were going to do that. This was the baby that, you know, I already loved.
Termination was not an option for us. I mean, the Bible tells us that before we were born, He knew us. He knit us together in our mother's womb. Yes, there were risks, but we felt that he would handle the situation. He knew us. He knew Mary Grace, even though we hadn't met her.
We believe that all babies are a gift from God, and we believe that all babies deserve to be loved and taken care of, and we believe in the sanctity of life. I was willing to risk anything for her as I would for all my children. There was no way we were going to terminate. And when we told the doctor that, he just, you know, I remember he kind of leaned back in his chair and he's like, there's nothing I can do.
At a certain point, he was like, all I can say is good luck.
And he sent us home from that appointment with just nothing. You know, we were going to come and see him 2 or 3 times a week. I had a list of things that if this happens, if this happens, if this happens, you have 18 minutes to get to the hospital and deliver in order to survive. And we knew that was impossible. The only thing we could do was pray.
Hearing this news, I tried to be as supportive as I could for Jennifer, because I knew the risk to her was great. But I guess I have a perspective that we've been through an emergency with Scott. I also know that God is sovereign in all his ways. We just had to put our trust in him. Like I said, I remember coming home, emailing the deacon body right away and just said, please pray for us. Talked to my parents. We were on their prayer list in Tennessee. There were churches around the country that, because people passed that prayer request on, we were getting prayed for. So at that point, like I said, I don't think there was anything I could do other than just rely on my faith and try to be as supportive as I could for Jennifer and our family.
During those, I guess about 14 weeks that, we were in this, almost felt like a limbo of not knowing if Mary Grace would be born. Looking back, I don't remember that ever being a time of anxiety or fear or even stress or worry. We had so many people that just came around us and surrounded us and prayed for us, and I know that sense of peace that I had really came from God. That's the only place it could have come from. And we had so many people that were taking care of us. I don't think I cooked a meal in all that time. Our church family, our friends, everyone, meals were being dropped off. My children didn't miss anything. They didn't miss days of school. My mom would come over in the afternoons and make me take a nap while she took care of Jack and Emma while Scott was at school.
I think it drew me closer to God, and just to see as we progressed through that pregnancy, it showed me that he was real. He's here with us. He's walking through it with us. He does give us things that we can't handle on our own. So we have to put our trust in him.
At appointment after appointment that we were going to, the doctor would just be shocked when he couldn't find, further complications. He expected things to be getting worse and worse the longer that I was pregnant. And nothing was getting worse. And he was just so surprised. And by the end, our goal was to make it to 36 weeks pregnant. And so I went to a last appointment when I was about 35 weeks pregnant, and the doctor was like, I don't even know what to say. He said, I never imagined still seeing you at this point. I never imagined that you would even still be here and that you would still be pregnant.
The doctor couldn't explain why things had corrected themselves in future ultrasounds. We knew that it was the power of prayer at work.
December 10th, 2012 was the day Mary Grace was born. Scheduled C-section. I was ready for it. The children had all been taken care of. The house was clean. Everything was ready. Once we got to the hospital, everything I feel like was a blur. I don't remember a lot. I was so ready to hold her and to have her in my arms and just hold this miracle that we had.
I remember being in the room. I think Jennifer's parents were in there with us. The doctor came in, and I believe it was Jennifer's mom asked, can we just have a prayer before we went into surgery? And so we prayed for everything to go well in the surgery. And I remember in the surgery, the doctors just were having a casual conversation, and I mentioned that to a nurse, and she's like, that means everything's going well. It's when they get quiet that you got to be concerned. So they were doing it. Doctor, after everything's over, explained, goes, if we had not known there was issues, I would have thought it was a normal 4th C-section.
With the other 3 C-sections, usually they just give you the baby. They kind of let you, the husband holds the baby, you kiss the baby and they take the baby away, but they put her on my chest, and one of the nurses took one of my arms and held it so I could hold her. Just having her there right next to my heart, and she wasn't even crying, she was just perfect, and she was looking at me, and it was just, I finally felt like this was it. This was our family. We had completed our family.
I am Mary Grace. I'm 10. I have 6 people in my family: Mommy, Daddy, Scott, Emma, Jack, and me. And also Barney. She's my dog.
Mary Grace is very energetic, and she doesn't stop talking even in her sleep because I share a room with her, so I know when she walks and talks.
Mary Grace likes to talk a lot, but I enjoy playing outside with her and playing wiffle ball and throwing the softball.
I'm the only one who tells Mary Grace no because it's my duty as her older brother, because someone has to tell her now.
Now as a mom of 4 who are 18, 16, 14, and 10, our life is very full, but I do feel very honored and blessed that God has given me these children to love and to raise, and I cannot wait to see the plans that He has for them.
I think our 4 kids probably have the best mother that anybody could have. Just seeing how Jennifer interacts with each one of them in their own way. All 4 are different and all 4 are unique, but just to see how she loves them and provides for them and for our family, it's just amazing.
I prayed for all my children before they were born. I prayed for all 4 of them as I was pregnant with all of them. We prayed for them, prayed for what their life would be like, prayed for the people that they would meet in their life. I've already been praying for their future wives and their future husbands and their future families. As they are growing up, we are raising them in the church. We hope to instill in them just a love of God, a love of His Word. We hope that we are teaching them to have faith, and we hope that as we are living, not only are we teaching this to them, but we're also modeling this for them.
Trying to raise my kids to put their trust in God, to know that He's sovereign in all His ways. Life will get tough, there will be challenges you have to face, but just to know that God is there, God loves us, and just that you can rely on Him. He will not let you down. Doesn't mean things will get easy, but He'll see you through and He'll be there. Trying to live that out, I recently went on a mission trip with the senior class to Bogota, just to try to put my faith into action. And to me, that was a great experience. I got to spend with Scott, gave me a new perspective on what we have and just to how I'll hopefully continue to raise my children in faith.
My parents have taught me how to be a man of faith and just how to walk a Christian life by setting the perfect example for me.
I grew up in the church. I went to a Christian school. I ended up at a Christian college. I knew all the church stuff. I knew all the Christian stuff. But somehow I had never truly believed in miracles until Mary Grace was born. In my mind, I thought miracles was, Jesus turning water into wine and, miracles that the disciples saw Jesus do. That was my interpretation of what a miracle is. Mary Grace is a miracle. Like, she is proof that God still does miracles every day, and we just miss them because we're not looking for them. She is proof that He loves us as His children enough to give us miracles. And just having her here and going through everything with the pregnancy and knowing what it took to get her here and how many people prayed for us, my life has been transformed, because even though I knew all the right stuff, my life is transformed because it showed me that God loves me and loves us as His children enough to give us these miracles and to hear our prayers. Even if it's, a prayer of please save my baby or a small prayer of please help me find my keys, God is going to hear them and He answers our prayers.
As the doctor said, she'll have an exciting testimony one day. I think that testimony is being written now. As like I said, just seeing her personality develop, the friendships she makes at school and at church. God will continue to work on her story, that one day she'll use it, and can't wait to see the impact that has.
I accepted Jesus about a year ago. I want to get baptized because I want to show others I follow Him.
Mary Grace, I hope as you grow up, you always remember how wanted you were and are and how much you are loved. I hope you remember that God is a big God that can and still does perform miracles. And I hope you remember that you are a miracle.